Would you like to know the difference between soul food and Southern home cooking? Well, we discovered it's making the ordinary extraordinary. Our cover story is Adolph Dulan, restaurateur, and we'll be talking about restaurants here on Entrepreneur Digest. Greg, have you ever regretted giving up the key to the corporate, not the corporate, but the executive washroom?
I see you read something about my life, and well, having a key to the executive washroom is something that I found out that a lot of people aspire to, being able to ride on the private elevator, being able to have an office with a window, but then they lose sight of making money. And I found out that somewhere in the shuffle I was losing sight on how much money I should be making if I intended to have some of the things in life that this good country was able to provide for those people who have money.
Okay, that's real good. We're going to talk all about that in just a few minutes. Hi, I'm Naomi Warren, and welcome to Entrepreneur Digest. My guests today are Mr. Adolph Dulan. He's the proprietor of Aunt Kizzy's Back Porch, which is it's a restaurant, in case you didn't know, and his son Greg, who does the catering part of that business. So we're going to talk about how you got started and how other people can get started.
Okay.
When did you start Aunt Kizzy's Back Porch?
Aunt Kizzy's Back Porch was started officially on January the 2nd, 1985.
Okay, but I should have started way back when you gave up that key to the executive washroom. Because you were doing other things back then, right?
Well, if you want a little bit of historical data on Naomi, let me go back to the time I started out in, well, let's go all the way back. I'll take it all the way back to Oklahoma when I grew up on the farm back in Oklahoma. And believe it or not, but I was actually born in a log cabin that was built in 1889 when Oklahoma was opened up for settlement, and my parents, my father was born in that log cabin and I was born there, and then I went through Langston University at Langston, Oklahoma, spent a couple of years in the Army, arrived in California in 1960, got a job working for the post office as most people do, then moved up to being a social worker. That was my stint with working with corporate America civil service, as you may know, and progressed from being a social worker into working for the Department of Personnel as a personnel analyst due to affirmative action programs, then moved into the data processing department in charge of the training department, and I was still not satisfied because I knew that my ability to continue to progress in administration was getting very limited, and there was something else that I wanted. And my wife was also working for Los Angeles County at that time as a social worker and also as a personal analyst, and our careers were going side by side. And then she became the personnel officer at the Los Angeles County Data Processing Department, which actually made her my boss at that time. So we used to drive around through Beverly Hills and all of the rich neighborhoods and look at houses and try to figure out if we could ever afford a house, a dream house. We would know what it would look like because we were seeing how the rich people live. And one day we started asking, I don't know which one of us started first asking, you know, what do you think they do for a living? And we said, well, maybe their parents died and left them an inheritance. They must be the president of a corporation or whatever. But we never said, I bet they work for Los Angeles County Civil Service. And from that day on, we started thinking that we must have been doing something wrong because we were not able to live in a lifestyle that we wanted to. And then we decided that perhaps they were in some type of business. And that got us thinking, and we started doing a little bit of investigation on our own and started thinking about making a move and leaving the security of a paycheck every 2 weeks. And in 1974, my wife took the first leap, and we had just had a daughter that was born, and she decided that she was going to try the nursery school business. So we bought a nursery school, and that was in 1974. Then the next year, 1975, I left civil service and bought an Orange Julius stand and traded in a suit and my three-piece suit and tie and shirt for some combat boots and a paper cap and started frying hamburgers. So that was my start in business.
Where did you get the resources, the financial means to start both of these businesses?
Well, we have never been able to get a government loan or the other resources that you would think of that people use when they're getting started in business. The first time around, I drew down all of my retirement, and when I quit my job for Los Angeles County, and every little bit of money that I could rake and scrape from friends, neighbors, and anywhere else we could get some, and we just got started on our own. So we have, even with on Kizzy's back porch, we had to start up with what little money that we could get from cashing in insurance policies, small loans from friends, and putting it together, bootstrapping it, I think might be a better way of describing it.
Let's go back, Adolph, to where you started the franchise, and I'm going to assume, I may be incorrect, that you also used the funds from your profit sharing for the nursery school. When you got, how much did it cost at that time to start those businesses?
Well, first of all, you're using some words that are way above and beyond my knowledge of operating a business. You're using franchising and you're using profit sharing. I think I understand the concept of what you're talking about, but we're just small business people right now, and we're probably doing something that anybody could do.
That's important. Let me rephrase that. Okay, you drew out your retirement money.
Right.
Okay. Now, how much did it cost you to start the Orange Julius business? Because the reason I use franchise, wasn't it a franchise that you bought?
Yeah, that's fine. I did buy a franchise that was the Orange Julius franchise, which at that time was in a neighborhood that was just changing over. It's called the Jungle now. It's near Martin Luther King Boulevard in Hillcrest. And the business is now known as Hamburger City, because I started selling an ethnic kind of food. I started selling chili burgers, chili cheeseburgers, egg burgers, and that was not on the Orange Julius franchise contract. So one day I looked up and there were 3 men out there dressed in suits, and they were looking at my restaurant, and they came up and looked at my menu board, and they started holding a conference in the parking lot. And the next thing I knew, they came back and said that either I had to change back to the Orange Julius menu or they were going to pull and strip my franchise away. I tried to explain that that was the reason why the last people who had it had gone into a business failure, because they were selling a product that was not compatible with the community. And so they insisted. So I had to make an immediate change from an Orange Julius name and recognition to a new business name that was not known, had never been in existence before, which was Hamburger City. That was the name we agreed upon to rename the business.
But we still don't know how much it cost you initially to buy into the Orange Julius.
It cost me $20,000 initially to buy into it. Which I made a mistake. I put all cash down, and then I found out later on you should never do that. You should try to put, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go on. That's a good point. I want you to emphasize that to our viewers, because some people might say, well, $20,000, I don't have that much money, but you're saying you should never do that. So go on.
Oh, I made some serious mistakes. Let me just be honest with you. Now that I look back on it, it was not knowing and not doing some research in advance and not knowing that you should do a business plan and not knowing a lot of things that I now know and would recommend to anyone thinking about going into business to do. I had a mission. I was on a mission to achieve extra money, and I knew that everybody in the United States of America must eat. If they don't eat one day, they must eat another day if they're going to continue existing. And I knew that if I could get a product that would sell to a large number of people, I thought that I had the ability to PR the business and to promote it, and I thought that I could make it work.
Okay, so is Hamburger City still in existence?
Oh, yes, very definitely so.
And you're still the proprietor?
Yes, and Hamburger City, if I may add, at one time had more hamburger stands than Fatburger.
Is that
They
right?
only had 3, and at one time we had a total of 4 hamburger stands. And even to this day, right now, Hamburger City, I think, has the best taste in hamburger in Los Angeles because, as you know, Fatburger has become more commercialized after they started selling franchises and opened up a lot of stores. And we're still doing the old-fashioned hamburger where you make the patty by hand, and it is cooked to your order the way you want it, and it is also dressed out the way you want it with an extra hot, spicy dressing that we put on it, which gives it just an extra flavorful taste that you've never experienced before unless you've had a Hamburger City hamburger.
I'm going to have to get one. Greg, were you working at Hamburger City?
Yes, I started working at Hamburger City at the age of 15, reluctantly, but yes, that's where I got my start in working in the family businesses.
We're sitting here and I keep smelling this peach cobbler. So we better get to Aunt Kizzy's restaurant and talk about how you got started with it. So 3 years ago, you started Aunt Kizzy's Back Porch, but you said that previously you didn't know anything about a business plan. Did you make a business plan for this particular venture?
If I have to tell the truth, Naomi, and I have blundered into businesses, and some of them have become successes. I've had a lot of failures along the way. Before Aunt Kizzy's Back Porch was actually started, I went and opened up a, well, let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
One night, my wife and myself and another couple were riding around, and we were looking at areas where we would love to have a business other than where I had one that was on Martin Luther King Boulevard in Hillcrest. And we passed through this shopping center, and I remember my wife saying, now this is an area where I would like to have a business if I could afford it.
But let me interject right here. What criteria were you using to decide where to place your business?
The criteria that I was using to decide where to place my business was luck.
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 Luck for what, though?
Okay, let me explain what happened.
Okay.
I had some friends that opened up a hamburger business in the marina, and a shopping center called the Villa Marina Shopping Center that is where the UA Cinema Theater is located in the Marriott Hotel. Their business was not going very well, and because my hamburger business in the black community was doing exceptionally well, they asked me to come out and as a consultant to kind of help them out with their business. And during the course of me helping them, somebody told me that another business around the corner in that shopping center was not doing well, and that I should go and talk with the lady about maybe I could buy her out or something. That was in 1982. So I did, and I was successful in opening up Hamburger City Marina, which was a jump from the black community into opening up a business in an almost totally white community.
So you found a business that was failing.
Yes.
You approached the proprietor and you struck a deal.
Right.
What are we talking about in terms of striking the deal? What were the consequences of that situation with her?
Well, the way it worked out was that in this particular business, the lady had put in a lot of money when she bought the business. Due to, for whatever reason, maybe the kind of food that she was selling, it was a restaurant. It was not going well. And she had to leave it or else perhaps run a greater financial burden than she was already under.
Okay, we're going to hold that for just a second. We're going to pause for a few messages, and when we come back, we'll finish finding out how Aunt Kizzy's Back Porch got started. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I remember clearly the day 7 years ago that I found out my son had diabetes. The flood of feelings, and my decision to learn everything I could about diabetes to help Brennan deal with it. Diabetes is one of the few chronic conditions whose day-to-day control is in the patient's hands. It's a balancing act, combining insulin, diet, and exercise in a way that keeps blood sugar levels near normal. I see that he monitors his blood sugar frequently and gets his insulin injections. Besides watching his food intake, I try to make meals interesting, and I try to keep his exercise fun. Diabetes won't go away like measles or a broken leg, not until research finds a cure. In the meantime, how I accept and cope with his condition affects the way Brennan does. I want the best for my son, and I want him to know he can enjoy life like any other child. If you have a child with diabetes, learn all you can about it. The Juvenile Diabetes Foundation can help you, as they did me. No one should face diabetes alone.